Well, good morning, everybody. GM. Welcome to the party. There we go. Awesome. Hey, good morning. Welcome to Takeoff Tuesday. Got some good stuff cooking here. And I just wanted to pull up our Helios, because there's something cool to check out here. Look at this. We got our new top 10. Where are we at? New top 10. Good. Okay. So here we go. Top 10. Congrats to you guys. All right. In the number 1 position, Bree and Mike Magarel. Bree Mag. Danny Says in number 2 position. Well done, Danny. Marion Seta in the number 3 position. Jose Rodriguez and his lovely wife out of the Idaho team in number 4. Benjamin coming in at number 5. Benjamin Creelman from the Tooele team. Well done. We got David and Denisha coming in at number 6. Mr. Brian Woodward out of Eagle Mountain at number 7. We got Andweli Mansasu from the Virginia team at number 8. Number 9 is Mr. Christian Sadler. Who would have seen that coming? But look at him. Haven't seen him on the charts in a minute, so well done to you, Christian. And Elva Morales coming in the number 10 spot. Cool. So that's exciting to see. Utah, Wyoming, Utah, Idaho, Utah, Virginia, Utah. Guys, I think we're doing something right here. I think we are doing something right. Okay, and Bill and Mayor are all over the front page. It's great to see. Great to see some American patriotism. I didn't even notice that little pin there. Love it. Okay, so that's our top 10. Congrats to all of those people for making sales, making waves. There's a couple teams around the country, which is great. But one thing I want to help you guys understand is we're on a winning team here. Scott and Nancy Rowe are part of the team. Then we got Yazzie Numer on another part of the team. Got James and Lisa out of California on a different team. What happens is we all start to sharpen each other's swords, so to speak, right? We learn from each other. Hey, how did you get ahead doing that? And then everyone else will start to do it. And then someone else breaks ahead. Hey, how did you do that? And then they all start to do it. And we all work together to bring this company up. And then the individual teams always win as well, too. So just a couple quick heads up. There's going to be a Spanish briefing tonight in Salt Lake City. Whoops. Denver's got their study group tonight as well. So pay attention and participate in those. What else is in here? And then property tour with Richard. Property tour with Richard. Study groups with Esther. The Spanish intro with Fernando. Long Island intro with Jason. Right on, Jason. Debbie and Bill for the Atlanta team, and then Gail out of Killeen, Texas. Gail just messaged me a couple weeks ago that she just celebrated her 2-year anniversary of her new office. And so things are growing great down there in Texas. And then tomorrow we have the Velocity Banking game night with Tamara and Kevin up north. And then this is a powerful lineup here. If you got the chance to meet with Steve Nomura or Sharon Middleman. Both of those guys have a lot of real estate experience. And then we'll get into our Thursday night big briefing. Why? Oh, there it is. Mitch O'Malley's briefing right there. We'll be meeting at the Centerville location again. Okay, remember guests are going to go upstairs with Mitch, and then the study group mastermind is going to stay downstairs in the main studio A. Okay. Then, just want to point out on June 5th is when we're going to be doing the what is it called? The challenge, the new flip challenge. So it looks like there's going to be an event in Vernal on the 5th as well. Kendall is going to be doing his, Mitch and Maley. Our Texas team, 2 Texas teams. Awesome. Yep, it's working. And for those of you who are interested in joining us Thursday at 4 p.m. Mountain for a Zoom about learning blocks, this is one reason why I'm doing this. By the way, this is the last one until fall. So busy summer. So if you want to spend this 2-hour workshop with us this Thursday, we're going to be going over what a learning block is, how it affects your focus. There's going to be an interesting exercise to evaluate yourself. And then we're going to learn how to destroy distractions. That's ultimately what it comes down to. You have all the right tools, the time, the pieces, the parts. They're all there for you. But if you get distracted, the cake's not going to be made. So since you have all the right ingredients, how to destroy those distractions. And then Cosimo has a gift for everyone at the end, which will absolutely raise your understanding and techniques to get a hold of your focus. The people who can focus the most are the people who bend reality to their will. And the people who cannot focus or don't focus choose sloth, laziness. Life happens to them. And you might be really excited and ambitious, and you got a big goal, but if you cannot stay focused, that ambition goes to waste. So anyway, his whole premise is no one taught us how to study, just what, and that's why we created blocks. So there's a way to study, get more done in less time while having fun. So if you want to join us for that learning blocks, fill out this form here, and I'll drop it in the chat real quick. What's everybody else doing? Great, got some robots in here. GM22 Gilda. Okay, there's that. All right, so excited about the top 10. I know some of you just got here, so GM. Yep, new top 10. Bree, Danny, Mary, Jose, Benjamin, Denisha, Brian. Whoops, skipped one. And Dwale, Christian, and Elva. So well done. All right, let's get into this. We are on Takeoff Tuesday, another exciting day. And as we just came back from a powerful week at corporate 2 weeks ago, then this last week we capitalized on that. We did a lot of inviting, following up. We did some momentum stuff. We talked about finding money all last week and helping our guests with that. Talked about telling the story yesterday. And now we are in Takeoff Tuesday. And in Takeoff Tuesday, I would like to talk about getting ready for your deal, not just the knowledge, which obviously you're getting by watching your classes over and over, but the pieces. Okay, because something else to think about is when that when that commission or that paycheck, that deal finally pays out, what are you going to do with that money and the other parts to it? Some of it you're going to roll forward, some of it you're going to keep, maybe you're going to pay off debt. But one of the faulty mindsets is that one deal is going to change your luck, right? People are saying this whole thing about, if I'm just lucky enough to get a deal, then everything can change for me. But it's not about luck. It's about action. I want to applaud Tamara and Gilda, and Michelle. I mean, these ladies are action takers. That's why they've done collectively hundreds of deals in their time with us, is because it's action and not fooling themselves into that one deal is going to change everything. Now, one deal could do a lot, but it's not chance, it's not hope, it's not luck. And so, as we're getting ready for the second half of 2025, let's go and look. How did you do all of May, April, March? Were you on track or are you behind? Do you need to play catch up? How does our next few months look? June, July, August? Most people are going to go out and travel and get distracted. Not us. We're going to stay focused. We're going to stay in the game. We're going to build our portfolios. And that it's not just about the cash on cash return. In my mind, as I've been running more numbers lately, it's about the discounts as well. And Bill is a great example of how to buy houses at a discount. The discount adds to your net worth. It adds to your ROI, right? Cash on cash return is one number. ROI is another number. We're obviously looking at both. But the discounted buying is coming, folks, between everything that's happened this month at the White House and what's happening around our country. Discounts are coming. Be prepared. And that preparedness, getting ready for our next deal, is what I'd like to talk about today. So for those of you who are new, Bill Predebon is our man of the hour for Takeoff Tuesday. He's been here with us for almost 8 years now. Hundreds of episodes in the history books as we've continued to advance and help more people do more deals. I believe because of this show, we've helped over 1,000 people do a deal now. And so you're either going to do your next one or your first one with us. And I'm excited to have you all here as our guests and to have Bill here as our host for the hour. So let's give a big warm welcome to Mr. Bill Predebon. GM.
What's happening?
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. What's that?
How are you doing today?
Recovering.
We got on our awesome Renatus shirts. Yeah, buddy. That's the thing, folks. Stop wearing a brand that doesn't pay you. Okay? Seriously, does Nike pay you? No. Does Adidas pay you? Is that how you say it?
Adidas.
You got to wear what pays you, is what I'm saying. If Nike had a contract with you or Callaway or whatever, sure, be their billboard. But Renatus pays you. You got a contract with Renatus, be their billboard. So anyway, Bill, we're about to head into, we got one more month and then the half of the year is over. So as we're looking at our yearly goals, some people have it in numbers of deals, other people have it in dollars of income. How do you measure your next 6 months? Are you trying to do a certain number of deals? Or are you trying to hit a certain income? And what does that look like for you?
Well, let's see. I guess it's a little different for everybody. And where you're at, and what. So, I guess let's see. The main thing is, I mean, I don't know how you track it and how everybody, measures their goals. Obviously, they do need to be trackable and measurable, right? And so, like for me, I constantly I don't know. I'm fortunate that my brain doesn't really shut off necessarily. So, and I do write a lot of stuff down and then I rewrite it down. And then that's the extent of when how I need, once I write it down and stuff, I can remember it and see it. I don't need to have it. Um, um, I don't need to keep it with me if that makes sense. But like in my head, I'm constantly thinking about what it is I'm trying to accomplish. This is pretty simple for me. We're in transition right now. We're considering making some moves to some different areas of the country, and doing some more traveling. Um, when I look at the goals that I have, or then I know what cash I need. I know what I need to finish and what I need to start. And my goals are, God, I'm blabbering, I guess, really. It's kind of a hard question. The they're longer term goals. Like I'm building a sixplex. So I know when I need to start raising the money for that sixplex. And then and I'm building another spec home. And I'm finishing this recent spec home. So I know that there's four things I need to do before I take off from Michigan for the summer. But I also know that, um, I've been a little, I don't know if complacent, but I've been busy in Michigan. So I haven't done any deals up where we spend the time for the summer. But this year I'm going to do a deal up there. There's some pretty good rental opportunities up there, with the demand now. Interestingly enough, not only since COVID, but over the last decade or so, the college has really grown, and they have a lot of goals to increase their student body by 30% in 10 years. It's pretty significant. Um, and when you go from 7,000 students to 10,000 students, there's a considerable amount of staff that needs to be in place in addition to the student body. And then there is going to need to be housing, and there's going to need to be jobs. And so people are going to need to come in, the restaurants will have to expand. So all of these things, I've learned about in this town. So I'm 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 confident in knowing that there's going to be a demand for housing. I've talked to people at Michigan Tech. So anyway, those are some of my goals that I'll start to look towards. So it's kind of just future, you're kind of always just looking ahead. When I was a ski racer, my whole life, interestingly enough, nobody probably knows how to do it, but we would, the number one way to familiarize yourself with a course, and these courses take over a minute to 2 minutes to get down the hill through these gates. And we would walk the hill up. You walk up the hill through the gates backwards, and you recognize and remember, and you get familiar with where the certain turns are, where the head walls are, um, where there'd be a hairpin turn, and that sort of thing. And when you're skiing the gates, you're looking minimum of two gates ahead. So by the time you're making a turn, you've already seen that gate two turns before that. And so you're not even consciously thinking about that turn anymore. So same thing with business, I think. Like you're trying to look ahead and see what it is. You don't want to play a catch-up game. You don't want to make a decision in the moment. You want to plan for those decisions, so you can be prepared for the opportunities when they come, number one. So anyway, kind of I don't know, a theory. And it's different for everybody. I'm not being like, oh my God, you've got a plan. And, everybody out there. And again, this is for you all. And we try to remind ourselves that we are, first and foremost, we're trying to, really spread the word. And we are, if we're playing the game of marketing, and we are really trying to benefit we're really trying to benefit our real estate, a community is necessary, and the natural community that's built here is a powerful one for connections, relationships, and partnerships. And I don't mean just partnering, but it's just there's so many benefits to being around other people that are doing real estate and business. Um, so in that case, when we're learning this stuff for ourselves, we're able to spread the word, and it helps us. Again, I think it's a tool to help close the deal with some people that I don't think they get this information necessarily too many other places direct from the source. They have to source it themselves, kind of. So just food for thought when we're kind of learning this stuff. But I don't know. Let's see. So you said we're talking about preparing for the deal. I agree with you. The deal isn't going to change your life. I don't think. Um, unless you plan it to be, right? Um, you may simply want one dream house or one vacation house or one rental house, and that could change it. I think that like I truly believe that real estate is a supplement to creating wealth and legacy and opportunity. I will tell you that when you're able to buy and hold real estate, and I truly believe, when you're holding real estate, it's an asset, right? Because it is paying you, but it is constantly a liability. Rental properties, constantly have, um, they constantly need money thrown at them. So it's not something you want to take lightly. But I think that Renatus teaches you, which I like. Renatus teaches you options. So if you buy a rental property that doesn't work out, maybe it's costing you too much money. Like it's cash flowing, right? You bought it, so it does cash flow, but maybe you didn't anticipate the type of tenants that you were going to have, and they don't take care of the place as much. Or, some things, like right now, I used to be able to install a 40-gallon gas hot water heater, including the hot water heater, for $400. And you can't even buy the gas hot water heater for under 700 or 800 now, right? Um, Things are very expensive when it comes to replacing a lot of the and fixing a lot of these items. Just to call an appliance repair guy out to a place is a minimum of $85 just to get them there. And typically there's something wrong, it doesn't need to be replaced, but it's a couple $100 every time a dishwasher goes on, and things aren't made like they used to be made. They don't last as long. So where I'm going with this is real estate, when you're able to hold it and when you're able to buy it with equity and buy the property correctly, I shouldn't say correctly, just buy the property at a discount, and you're able to creatively acquire it, even fund it, and kind of fix it and manage it or whatever you're going to do with it. And I'm not really talking about fix and flip, but I'm talking about longer term wealth creation. Um, it's interesting because you have a lot of outs. Like you don't end up having to sell the property for a discount. I mean, and break even because you didn't pay retail like a lot of owners do, right? A lot of owners, remember, like if you think about it, people put money in real estate if they have money, right? Because it's a tax shelter. It's an incredible place. We know the 5 reasons of real estate to put money, right? And it also takes less risk, believe it or not, because you're not dependent on someone else's work necessarily for the property to go up in value, the asset to go up in value, right? But like if you invest in a company, I mean, like you have no control over that investment other than your knowledge and your broker's knowledge, right? And I'm not saying don't invest in the markets, things like that. Obviously, many people, but I think that many people that make money in the market spend some time learning about the market. Like, when someone says, hey, here's a stock tip for you, it's not like they just buy it. They go and look at it. Like they study it. They understand the market. My friend's dad used to was one of my best friends in high school, and he was a pharmacist. Like he owned a pharmacy. But the dude bought a new car every 2 years. He had a lake house when we grew up, a boat. He drove a Cadillac and I drove you know, he didn't have, like, it was up in the UP. So he had a nice truck, and they had a beautiful house. He had a live-in maid. The maid was there 7 days a week. And I was like, what the heck? And we would go to the lake house, and me and Scotty would want to go, you know, we'd ski bare feet sometimes. His boat was pretty fast, and we'd water ski all the time. And he's inside watching the stock ticker, right? He was studying the stock market. So people that have money put money in real estate, but the rest of us that don't necessarily have money, we have to figure out how to get in real estate, right? And I was talking to my buddy yesterday at dinner. We went over to their place for Memorial Day, and there was a time he had like 21 rentals. It's a pretty wealthy individual, and he was making a lot of money in his business. And so he had a friend that wanted to get into real estate, and they bought their first rental at Copper Mountain in Colorado, when it was a new construction property built for a ski in, ski out, and they bought it on a lottery, right? So they played. He's like, we couldn't sell that damn thing for 4 more years before breaking even on it, right? Because they just paid retail. They got a loan, they put 20% down, and they just rented it out, right? And there were HOA fees and there were assessment fees. I mean, like, just the stories he was telling me, right? And like, that's just people with money that put money into real estate because they know it's a good place to put it. So where was I going with this? One of the things that you can learn, and that Renatus teaches the average Joe, right? Or the average Jane, is that we are able to acquire real estate creatively. We're able to acquire it at a discount. We're able to be creative in managing and or fixing up and basically forcing appreciation, forcing value onto a rental property through improving rents and decreasing the expenses and increasing NOI. Even if it's not commercial property, that is the goal with a rental property, right? You want to maximize cash after debt service that goes into your pocket. You want to maximize your NOI for value according to the bank. And when you do so, you have the ability to borrow money against the property, and that can catapult your wealth, right? That can catapult your ability to do more deals as you begin to leverage the property you got for essentially free, right? When you can create a deal through other people's money, um, the one thing it takes is knowledge, like he said, and it takes planning, like Michael said, and then it takes knowledge. I already said that. Um, I don't remember what the hell I was going to say, but when you're able to do that, the then you can utilize the property, and you can be into the property with very little or no money of your own. Now, again, I believe that it is important that, if another reason Renatus offers quite a bit that I don't believe people take advantage of, right? They come in, they want to fix and flip a house. You know, it's not a bad thing, depending on the market. It's harder to fix and flip fix and flip a house right now in this market, right? Because the average house is harder to get into. It's going to take longer to sell. It's just a fact, right? The interest rates aren't there. The scarcity mindset is there. People are afraid of the politics and what's going on and the tariffs and all this stuff. There's a reason, right? And it's based on news. It's really based on perception. So if they're watching, if they're I don't know if I should say intelligent, but if that's laughing. Um, if they don't believe in that necessarily and they believe in themselves, then it doesn't matter. But that's just not the way the public works. It's not the way most realtors work, right? It's not the way most realtors are taught, and that's who most people are dealing with, is most realtors, right? They're not dealing with the top 1% realtors. So anyway, um, then fix and flip. One of the things that Renatus teaches is and shares with us is a couple things. Number one is we have a business of our own that we can jump into, right? So you don't have to go start your own business, right? I mean, technically you're starting your own business when you sign on as an ICM, but my point is you don't have to create the wheel, right? You don't have to develop the product. You don't have to, develop the service. None of those things. All you got to do is generate a business around the product itself. Number two is it teaches you to be a business owner. It teaches you to understand tax and legal. It teaches you to understand finance. It teaches you to understand structure, entity structure, all different kinds of things of being a business owner. So there's no question, and you've heard me say this again, that if we're going to get into real estate, we should have a business. And most of the people we're dealing with, and most of the people that we talk to, and most of the people that are in the 99%, including ourselves, we don't make enough money to be in real estate. We shouldn't be in real estate because we don't have the money, right? So, so we have to supplement it. And fortunately, we can supplement it with knowledge and other people's sort resources to get into real estate. The problem is you have to maintain the real estate. You have to, and I'm talking about fix and flip, new construction, or just your portfolio in itself, even your own freaking home, right? If anybody of you are in real estate and you go out and see someone's house, and if you've ever spent time in a seller or you've done any research on people that are selling, wholesale homes or whatever it is you're doing, or maybe you go to an auction sometimes and you go, when I buy at auction, I tour the house first. I absolutely, I break into it if I have to, in order to see what I'm going to buy at the auction, because there's no turning back at the auction, right? So if that's the case, you go to these houses, and most of the time I'm talking about when I'm dealing with a seller directly, and I'm like, they've lived there 30 freaking years. And it doesn't look like they spent a single dime on the house. Like that is why the government allows people to depreciate the home, because by and large, if you don't maintain the house will fall the frick down, right? The roof will cave in, the hot water heater will give out, the fascia will break, the siding will collapse, and it'll look like a dilapidated piece of crap. And people in their right mind, they're like, I raised my family here. They spend all their money on their children and their travels and their sports and whatever it is. And they just got by. They provided a house for the child, and now it's time to sell the house, right? And they never had any money to put into the real estate. So we're talking about even your own personal home, right? People don't want to spend money on it. And what do? They borrow money against it in a HELOC to fix it, right? Because they've let it go for so long that they literally can't uh, ignore the leaky roof anymore, right? They have to go out and buy a new heater system because it's 20 years old. So the cool thing about Renatus is it teaches us to be able to do this and to have extra income at the end of the month so we can maintain a portfolio. And as people pay down the mortgage, and then, depending on where you buy the property increases in value, and you improve the property to force the appreciation, and rents go up. So therefore the value of the house goes up when there's more rent because the NOI is less, right? Or you're learning to be more conservative with some of your utilities, or when you put in new windows or doors, you're putting in more energy efficient items. So now the utilities that you're paying for are less, so your NOI goes up. When all these things happen, you're able to then have a better portfolio, but then even you're able to leverage it, Like you're able to go get loans that you wouldn't normally qualify because the asset itself qualifies for the loan. And you can take money out against your property without selling the asset, and you can expand or grow or even travel. It's a very interesting. So I think, when I think of what Michael was talking about, what's my goal, for the summer and then into the fall for the 6 months, and as I've been doing this, a while now, that's why I say, or that's not the only reason why, but when I say you can do what I've done in a third of the time, I truly believe it. If you plan, if you're not behind the eight ball like I was, and I don't wish that on anybody. And I'm talking about, I'm not talking about having some debt, and you know what I mean? And, um, and, 15, $20,000 of debt, I got to be honest with you, is we unfortunately deal with people and ourselves at the time that we find Renata sometimes, you know, um, is is insignificant. It literally is meaningless. Um,
I had a friend say it to me yesterday. I can't wait to get out of debt. I'm like, how much do you have? He said, I got 18 grand in debt. And I'm like,
yeah,
wow, what a life.
right.
But that's
Like,
probably bad debt though. See, well, we have a lot of debt, but they're good debt. See, there's
I
a
have a
difference.
lot of bad debt.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a balance, but like
What I'm
all of
saying,
his debt,
and
all of his debt.
right, I agree with you, Gilda, and what we're saying is you're right. It's bad debt, but what I'm saying about it is that what am I saying? Um,
It's not that much.
it's exactly that. If we're this, it's a hard conversation, and I don't mean to 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 minimize it or anything like that, but when we're talking about money, like we have these ideas, you know what I mean? I want this car, I want to retire early. I want to live comfortably. I want to be debt free. This is this is like the American dream. Like we want to have a little freedom. We want to be able to, kind of come and go as we please. We all don't need to win the lottery. Everybody says that, right? And everybody means it. But when it's not congruent with thinking $20,000 is a lot of money. It's not congruent when thinking $18,000 is a lot of debt. Because then if that's the mentality, then there's no way you're going to have $1 million at retirement. You will have the couple 100,000 if you're lucky to retire on, which is the average person in America, the 99, 95%, whatever it is, right? It's a problem because that is the mindset, right? When I was $100,000 in debt after filing bankruptcy that I couldn't bankrupt, and $300,000 upside down, and no credit and no home and no job and no nothing. Like the last thing on my mind was I can't wait to get out of the debt. The first thing on my mind was I need to make more money. Like I got to figure out a way to make a ton of money. So, and I'm not saying I'm better than anybody. I don't mean it like that, but like my mindset at the time was that, and I don't know where it comes from. I don't know if it's just because I have such an ego, or I envy money so much that I want more of it. So maybe that's it. And I don't value the dollar that much. I don't consider the dollar that valuable. Like, if that makes sense. Like, so therefore, if I have a lot of them, then maybe it's more valuable. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see it as a scarcity at all. Even when I don't have it. But so, and I'm not saying being reckless is the right way to do it either. So don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying is, um, when we look at Renatus, like, I don't even know why I said $18,000 is a lot of debt, but, um,
Because you're gonna have to spend that much on a rental property just to maintain it. Now you might make 30 grand that year, but you're gonna spend 18. And
right,
the idea of like having to spend money to keep your stuff going is something that people forget, seems like.
right. And generally speaking, when we feel like money is when we value money a certain way, and $20,000 is a ton of money, and we do our first deal or whatever, a deal, and we make $20,000, like first thing we do is we pay off debt, or maybe we take a trip that we haven't taken, and it's a $5,000 trip, which is a lot of money, right? But what happens in the next year? We Everybody reverts back to the same place they were, and they're no longer ahead. In fact, they're typically farther behind, just like in the lotto mentality, right? Because we don't have the education and we don't value the dollar. And now I'm saying value the dollar. We we fear the dollar so much that that um that we fear the dollar amount so much that we I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, I'll get
I
back
think
to
it's like a misappropriation of the tool,
yeah.
right? Like people, it happened for me because growing up poor or with a lack of money and financial awareness, every time we spent money was painful. In fact, there's a part of our brain wiring that when we pay cash triggers the pain center of our brain.
Oh,
And when we pay with a credit card, that area is neutral. There's no activity. So we, I don't know why, but there's something wired in us that when we're giving out cash, part of that circuitry gets fired to where we're experiencing pain. So then we say, hey, come to real estate. It's time to work. We're going to go make some money. And you think, cool, make the money, no pain. But then we say, well, to own a rental, you're going to pay 10, 20, 50 grand a year, but you might make another 10, 50 grand a year on it. That paying and then receiving, we hate pain more than twice as much as we like pleasure. So then we get into this spot where we don't take action because we have to pay some, even though the gain would be greater. We don't want to pay. And then we get into this loop for months or years where we say we're real estate investors, but we're not buying anything. And that needs
yeah.
to change. That reassociation to spending money on your real estate has got to change.
Right. And that's a great point. And we got a question coming up, but the point is that it's interesting is that basically we have to continue to reinvest. Like just recently in a business, like we have to continue to put money back into the system, into our properties, and into our education, and into what it is we're doing, and refuel the business. And so there is a time, I think, for a long time. In fact, my buddy said it yesterday, where cash, and that's when you'll hear other instructors talk about, cash is king and cash flow is king. That cat, and that's a different design. And then you're playing in a game where the cash flow seems to come in, but the ability to leverage and create necessarily doesn't, unless Umair's kind of got some things going on where he can kind of do both a little bit. But regardless, there's this point where you're pretty much you're relatively broke all the time as a real estate investor for a time frame, while you're up and running, and that's why sometimes you sell off property, but you have the property to sell and you bought it correctly. And if that makes sense, it's a little bit of a long-term game. You know what I mean? And if you think about the majority of people, and they're playing the same game at a smaller level, right? Which means that they're taking money from their paycheck before they see it, so it's less painful, and they're hoping, and it's put in, and there's an employee match, and they're growing this 401k at whatever rate. And it's interesting because what happens when they change jobs, right? What happens when they have a child, or someone gets sick, or they have to buy a house? What do? They sell or borrow from what little money they have in some random 401k, right? And they take the penalties, and we don't get penalized. We don't, we don't get hit with absorbent amounts of penalties and interest and not taxes. We can take a loan against the asset and it's freaking tax free, right? And we pay it back to ourselves as well. Like it's just, I don't even know. It's crazy, but they do the same thing. And most people never replace that. In fact, most people look at it and they go, oh, I got 18,000, 25,000, 50,000. I'm just going to liquidate it, right? It's not that much money anyway. I'm never going to do anything with it. I don't know anything about rolling it over to a STRA. I'm just going to cash it out, right? And they end up with a freaking 40% of the value of the thing. All right. What's your question, Tamara?
So I have two questions. So one, I mean, I know I have to make more offers and I have, but you know, I made these two offers recently on these deals. Now, in a regular market, I probably wouldn't even bother with these deals, but I'm really anxious to get moving. Like I feel I haven't had a deal in a while, so I'm anxious. So I made, that being said, I made the offer very conservatively to make sure it worked for me. And I was baffled because both of them got rejected because they were too low. But like these deals, like I'm just wondering who in the world is making offers, regular asking price offers on their deals, because I would never. But so my question is, I am trying to figure out how to navigate the market. Like you said, it's not a good market for flipping. I'm not necessarily looking to flip, but nothing has really come my way that has worked otherwise. So how would you position yourself in this market? What would you be doing if you were actively looking to do some deals? Like, and I'm open to I'm not necessarily looking to do flips. I'm just looking to do a deal, right? I'm more focused on doing what Dane is doing, but I haven't found anything on that end yet either.
So I think that, well, first of all, what Dane is doing and what people are doing that have been doing it a while didn't do it overnight, right? It's not like Dane woke up and said, I think I'm going to do a Dane deal. You know what I mean? It morphed into something over time. Dane was, he saw an opportunity and a demand, and so he provided a supply to the demand, right? Through his experience and knowledge of doing real estate deals creatively, right? And he was able to, through relationships, like he was good at asking questions and talking to people one-on-one and building trust and rapport, and then getting them to give him money. Well, he needed to do something with the money. So then when someone came to him in his relationships conversations and they didn't have any money, but they needed a house to put down only 20 grand on because, or 30 grand because they didn't have good credit, but they wanted to buy a house. It's like, wow, well, if I bought the house, I could probably sell it to you. So this one guy's got 200 grand. I could probably get a loan for 200 grand, buy a $400,000 house and sell it to you for three, and he put two and two together, right? And realistically, Memphis Invest has been doing this from day one, right? Memphis Invest does 400 deals a year, and they find the buyer first. They market for buyers. They find exactly what the buyers want, and then they go out and get it. And if the buyers don't perform in the first three offers, they don't ever offer the buyer another property, right? And so they already have the buyer in there. So it's kind of the same thing. So anyway, my point is you could do a Dane deal, but Dane understood it. So number two is like I don't mean to say that I fix and flip in any market. So I don't really even remember what I said a little while ago about flipping, but what I'm saying is if we're flipping houses in today's market, it's going to take a little longer to sell the flip. I mean, they're no longer selling in 15 to 45 days. They're selling in 90 to 120 days. And yeah, Memphis Invest is one of the best companies in the country. It's like Inc. 500 fastest growing companies for like 10 years. I mean, they're just off the chain. They have like $1 billion under management too. They manage the houses they sell to their freaking investors. It's crazy. That family's been doing real estate for like three generations though. So the so you can still flip where I need to know where you're finding your properties. I'm assuming they're on MLS. that you made those two offers on?
Yes, those two were, yes.
So one of the owners of Memphis Invest, you guys have probably heard about him. If you haven't, you know, you could look him up, whatever, but his name is Kent Clothier. And I just got a cramp. So when he started in 2000 in real estate, after he lost he helped grow a wholesale grocery business in Florida to like $1 billion, $2 billion, whatever, lost his ass. So he met a mentor and hired the guy, and the guy locked him in his house, you know, came down to see him, locked him in his house, and he made 100 offers every day for 3 straight days. So when you say you made 2 offers, you know, you're pissing in the wind, to
Well,
be honest.
100 offers a day for 3 days.
Yeah, that's how he got started in real estate.
Nice.
And Kent was scared to death as a 30-year-old guy, you know, because he didn't have any money to buy a single house, right? He's like, what do you mean I don't know, what if 100 people take my offer? And then the coach is like, what if 100 people take your offer? You can wholesale 100 houses. You know what I mean? Like you'll make $100,000 in 5 minutes. So 2 offers is good, but
no, I need to do a lot more. I know that.
right, you're not making enough offers if you really want it. Or if you want to make less offers, then you're gonna need to fish in more ponds, right? You need more poles in the water, right? So you have more chances of places to find to make the right offer to. You know what I mean? Like you're going to need to underwrite wholesaling deals. You're going to need to you're going to need some bird dogs out there finding you property, or you're going to need to knock on doors or have some type of advertisement. You know, you're going to need a few more fishing poles if you want to make fewer offers and get a deal with making, you know what I mean? Because you're going to need to make you might get your first offer, but you're going to need to make 10, 12, 15, 20, 30 offers before someone takes your offer. The other thing is it might take you a month if you make an offer a day to make 30 offers, but then the new month comes up. And if Jack off over there didn't sell his house in the last 30 days, you go back to him and make another offer that's lower. And you offer on the same house 30 days later, even 20 days later, right? Because they weren't willing to take your offer then, but they might be willing to take it now. You know what I'm saying? So you keep track of that offer on the MLS. If they sold it, great. Then thank God they didn't take your offer, because now they got a better offer and they took it. But in the meantime, if it doesn't sell, you go back and make another offer on it. So the other thing is, it depends. Like if you just want to get a deal, I would be, so the way I navigate the market, like, when I was starting out, and you've heard me say this, like my thing that I had was time, right? And the next thing I got was knowledge, right? So during the time I would spend studying and understanding. So I feel like now I understand real estate, plus doing it helped me solidify what I was learning, right? Or, enhance what I'm learning. So now I understood it and I've done it, right? But you don't have to do it to understand it. You just got to study it, right? And then, so where was I going with this? So I had time to underwrite a lot of deals. And when I say underwrite, I mean, I really just analyze it, right? And see if it's possible to put a square in a round hole, right? So anything that came my way, I would do it. Now, nowadays, I don't do that. I don't have to necessarily, but back then, depending on where you're at, like everything can be a deal. You've heard me say this. So what's interesting about the MLS is the house doesn't have to be dilapidated. It doesn't have to be broken down or old or on sale or anything like that. It can be waiting room. Is there people in the waiting room? So it just depends on what you want to do with the house. Like Tamara, if you can get someone to finance you 100%, and then you could rent it out for what the cost of the 100% financing is, it's a deal, right? Like if you think about it, like, okay, I can own the house, it's in pretty good condition, and the rents will cover it. And even if the rents cover it and you're in Arizona or Utah or California or wherever it is, you could get the appreciation, depreciation, and then you could even sell it on an owner financing or a lease option, and you could get a down payment on it. And then you have money coming in for a house that you didn't pay anything for, right? So in my mind, that's a deal, right? So it just depends on you guys on on what the market is going to offer you. Instead of us being focused on what it is we want to do in the market. So I don't know if that makes sense, you guys and girls, is like, I would be open to any type of real estate transaction if possible, while focusing on whatever it is that you're doing. You know, again, I do like the idea that, you know, we do inviting or we go to meetings with some sort, if we're not doing a full-blown Renatus meeting or you're doing online stuff and all you're doing is participating and not inviting, then you know, the gurus are right. You need to get out and network with people in real estate, because most people in real estate are not as smart as you. They're not as well equipped as the Renatus students. And I'm looking at this screen right now, everybody on this screen right now, though you people have more at your fingertips than anybody else. So most people at most real estate investor meetings are ignorant compared to you. They need you. And you could be like a shark in the freaking water and take advantage of anybody talking about whatever it is they're talking about, and you can capitalize on their deal. And that's, I don't mean that badly in Renatus, but that's, people are green when they come to a Thursday night meeting. People are green when they go to a RIA meeting and when they go to a Facebook group. Like, you all have read some of the comments and some of the questions on Facebook groups, in real estate groups, and you're blown away by the absolute, and it's not a bad thing, I'm not calling them dumb, but the ignorance, the just lack of education, the lack of understanding, the lack of experience that people have. And then you have people responding to them with even less experience and knowledge, and people are listening. So when someone can come to somebody and take advantage of them with the right intent, they will follow you. They will give you their money. They will give you their deal. They will ask for your help, and you can get your deals that way. And you can, you know, control the deal as the intelligent or sophisticated or knowledge, you know, the one with the knowledge, if that makes sense. And I'm not talking about taking advantage like you're going to screw them over. Yeah.
Okay, so one thing I know that everyone is dealing with is this chart here. Because most people expect their progress, their results to just, when they start, they're just like, yeah, there's my results. That's what I want. But really, we need to be living in this world of reality. What actually happens is there's this big blob of what in this article is calling it the valley of disappointment, where your skill set, your understanding, and your work aren't, and your results aren't in alignment. You're working more than the results are paying off. And how long does that take? For some of you, it's a month, 2 months, a year, 3 years, 5 years. If you're super stubborn, 7 years. There's no time on this chart. I'm just making up these years. But my point is that there's going to be this dip of suffering, valley of disappointment, before things actually take off. But then what my estimation is compared to the rest of the normies out in the world that are being lazy, is your results are going to go parabolic. They're just going to go up and up and up and up. But there is going to be that period of, am I doing it right? Is it working fast enough? And to not be fooled by that. So I just want to put that out there.
You know, it's a good point, valid, realistic. And you know, and that's the 3 feet from goal, because most people aren't willing to go through the valley of disappointment. I shouldn't say most people, we are, but there's still an expectation, and sometimes the expectation just isn't met. Like you're like, oh my God, when is this going to end? And I got to be honest with you, you know, during this time frame, it's going to go up and down. You're going to think that you're out of the valley, or you're going to think that it's starting to go up, and then you're going to buy a bad deal, or life's going to get in the way. You know what I mean? And you're just you know, you haven't hit it, and I don't know, you know, I don't know what it's like to hit the lottery in business. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's a constant work. You know, I think I think it's that way with most professions. You know, I think with real estate and business matched with real estate is that we're fortunate enough to have a higher opportunity. The ceiling is so much higher and almost limitless. And the possibilities are that high, when realistically, if it's a career that you're going through and you're waiting for it, you know, to climb the ladder and all those things, or, you know, just a normal life, a non-entrepreneurial type life, then, you know, you're still going to have ups and downs and stuff, and you're still going to have milestones and everything, like, you know, over the years. But at the end of the day, unless you've done something else, it's not like it used to be. There is no retirement. There is no wealth creation that just comes from time put in. Like, you do your time, you get out of the military for 40 years, and you're fine the rest of your life. It just doesn't, there's no pensions anymore. There's none of that. There's none of that stuff. You have to force yourself to create, you know, wealth and retirement. And so, yeah. But anyway, yeah, I love this call. It's a good call. It's good questions, good thoughts. You know, we try to bring it back around to marketing. I think, you know, God, I wish I could talk to everybody individually, because I just don't know, you know, and that's why Gavin is so critical. If you can utilize any of your calls with him and really, you know, structure the calls to cater your needs versus just trying to do a deal. Like, you could come on this call and ask me how to do something in the deal, but maybe Gavin can, you know, or anybody that matter that is a mentor to you can help you plan based on your resources and what you want. And what you want now doesn't mean what you're going to have in 10 years, or what you're going to want in 3 years, or even a year, but it's what you want now, and what you desire, what you think you want to do. You know, I truly believe in investing in major markets, and you know, finding a major market near you, and markets that, you know, perhaps, you know, are going to expand in the future. And, you know, based on companies moving there, employment going up there, people moving there. It could be weather related. It could be, industry related. And, and it could be population related, with, you know, with long people living longer in that particular area because there's a lot of retirees, whatever it is. But, you know, those markets have greater appreciation, and that appreciation is significant in certain times, and it goes up and down all the time. But when you can capitalize it in an up market, I mean, you can, you know, you just have to hold on to the property long enough. It's just like, you know, buying Bitcoin right now. Like, it's just not going to go down. It's going to go down, but if you're not selling it when it's down, it doesn't matter, right? And if you can buy it for zero money, or creatively, or someone else's money entirely, or someone else's credit, and use your knowledge, I mean, it's just it just doesn't get any better. I just don't know how to do that with anything else. You know what I mean? Unless you're like a mechanic, right? If you're a mechanic and you can restore a car and sell it at Barrett Jackson, have at it. But if you don't have that once in a, you know, 1 in a million skill set, real estate allows everybody to play the game.
Looks like Michelle has a question, but yeah, I agree with you. You either have to have a 1 in a million skill or buy assets.
Yeah, Michelle, come on.
Oh, I was just going to make a comment.
Oh, cool.
It was like a little bit back when you were talking about, you know, Renatus students having the education. I actually have yesterday came over a friend of mine. She's with Renatus and she's looking to buy a house. She's got two. And she's like, I'm looking for another one just to rent the other ones. She's like, but I don't know how to do it. And I'm like, well, you have so much education. And she goes, but a lot of these for sale by owners. And I'm like, well, that's your job to educate them with these for sale by owners because they don't know. They don't want agents. They don't know what they're doing. And you have that background, which is so great. So in 2008, I wished I would have had Renatus back then because I bought quite a few properties and then the market hit and it was like, oh, wow, what am I going to do? You know, like I was just an uneducated investor back then. And fast forward now, even being a realtor, like if I didn't have the education that I learned from Renatus and learning so much from velocity banking to buy and holds, you know, fixing and flipping is what started me. And like Michael had said at the beginning, oh, fix and flipping, it's not just a one-time thing. No, it's not, but it's a start. It starts you to get to going to where you can either make the money where I started doing the fix and flipping, where I built enough profit that I became a lender for a while. And then the market happened again. Then I had to use all that money to refi my name. So just the education here is just so powerful. And I think there's so many classes. It's like you got to find one niche that you want to study and go for it. And then when the market changes, say, okay, well, we've got all these other classes. Let me switch to this one so that you have all those under your belt, in your toolbox, I should say. That was just a comment I wanted to make on what you guys were talking about then.
Absolutely. That's good feedback or good addition.
Yeah, you got to be able to pivot too, because there's no such thing as a static market.
Especially
And
right now, I want to buy some more fix and flipping, and I'm like, that's not in the playing cards right now. But I like the idea is just go put all those offers in. What if you do like you said, put 100 offers in, and what if you get 30? Start wholesaling them off.
hey,
Do
you got a
some,
lot
right?
of work. Yep, lots of opportunity.
And that's what you got Renata students for. Like even like with the ISN, you know, you can wholesale some of them off to them or collaborate with them in different deals. Just saying.
Yeah, and that's saying we do need a different type of thinking for the next 5 years than the last 5 years. And if we have something in our brain chemistry called recency bias, and even though we know statistically that thing won't happen again, but if the thing just happened to us, we think it'll happen again because it just happened. That's called recency bias. And so when we look at the last 5 years and they go, wow, interest rates were at 1%, bond market was at 0%, inflation was at 9%, everyone got to stay home and work. And we have this recency of the last 5 years, right? Any house you bought just went up. That is not going to be the next 5 years. Do not fool yourself. Every day you got to have fresh thinking. Don't look back a week, a month, a year and go, well, those are the things that happened in the last week, month, year. So it should happen next week, month, year. No, that's how you get fooled. That's how you get trapped. That's how that, that Wall Street cheat sheet, that cycle of up and down, up and down. To avoid that, you have to avoid recency bias. If you go and look at each one of those feelings on that chart, each one of those is a recency bias feeling of the last feeling. So don't look at the last 5 years and expect the next 5 years. Complete fresh thinking. That's why we're in the ISN. That's why we do the Invest Edge. That's why we do these conversations here. And if you catch yourself thinking, oh, well, the last 5 years were like this, so the next 5, you got to pause that kind of thinking or call it out if one of your teammates or collaborators is doing that. You got to have your head on a swivel, guys. Interest rates up, bond yields down. People are not happy. Prices are stalling on real estate sales. Things are slowing. So just like I said, don't think the last 5 years will be the next 5 years, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, good points for sure. I mean, that's a great point. That recency bias. Yep, I like it.
Yeah, I think we'll talk some more about that next week too. Like, what would what would the next 5 years look like if, and some different what if scenarios that we could play out.
You know, I would just, why do we say it like that? You know, the key, I don't know what I'm trying to say. So, you know, to wrap up, you know, I think that the, so many things we can talk about that I'm thinking of, but I'm trying to put it all in a simple term. But like, you know, for it, what do I, like, I mean, you hear about SWOT analysis, you know, or whatever, and then you know, but I like going back to, you know, what is it that is an immediate need that you have, you know, depending on where you're at, right? Like, I don't have an immediate need necessarily right now, but like you might have an immediate need, whatever that financial immediate need is. And then I would look at your resources. Again, I say that a lot, but and what you're capable of accomplishing to meet that immediate need for the next 6 months. And then we would plan the strategy around that. We would plan the strategy around that need and resource that you have. And then we can accomplish the goal in the next 90 days. Like if you don't have an immediate need, you know, and then you might just want to fix and flip a house and, you know, make 20 grand or whatever it is, and then spend that money on something you wanted, right? But if you don't have an immediate need and you don't have an immediate want, then perhaps you just have, you know, it's a good time to start considering building a portfolio and acquiring a property. And then again, you know, that can be done if you've got a job and a credit score and a down payment. You don't have to, it can be done in one offer, right? If that makes sense. You know, you can buy a property from a wholesaler that you're going to hold on to because it's definitely at a discount. It's just not usually at a big enough discount to take the risk on a flip. But, you know, wholesalers wholesale stuff that's owner financed even. So it just depends on, you know, I would take the next 30 days and decide what you want to do and what you need and what you want in the next 6 months and relate it to a real estate goal based on your resources. And then we can figure out what class to watch. In fact, you know, if everybody did that on this call over the next week and you came back next call, then we could talk about it. And I could help you with a class and how to acquire the resources you don't have to accomplish the goal that you have for the next 6 months. And you could be done. Like it would be done. In fact, you know, 6 months is a long time. I think it can be done in 3 months and you could do it twice, to be honest with me. Which includes raising money, and it includes, you know, talking to family or whatever. And it includes marketing. So just food for thought.
Cool. Well, I think that's a great spot to wrap up.
Yep.
And yeah, another powerful day, folks. It's about making offers, changing your relationship to the maintenance of real estate and the debt and money associated with it, and not getting stuck in recency bias. Be having fresh new thinking for the next 5 years. So thanks for your participation today, folks. Thank you, Bill, for being here, bringing us some great energy, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Have a great day.
All right.